Deuteronomy 11. Moses is maybe wrapping up his monologue about how awesome he is and how horrible the Israelites are and how super awesome God is. And that means everyone needs to be reminded about how they need to obey the commandments. And also they have to remember how God murdered everyone he didn't like. I know that sounds like every other chapter. Love the Lord your God and keep his requirements, his decrees, his laws, and his commands always. Remember today that your children were not the ones who saw and experienced the discipline of the Lord your God, his majesty, his mighty hand, his outstretched arm, the signs he performed, and the things he did in the heart of Egypt, both to Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and to his whole country, what he did to the Egyptian army, to its horses and chariots, how he overwhelmed them with the waters of the Red Sea as they were pursuing you, and how the Lord brought lasting ruin on them. It was not your children who saw what he did for you in the wilderness until you arrived at this place, and what he did to Dathan and Abiram, sons of Eliab the Reubenite, when the earth opened its mouth right in the middle of all Israel and swallowed them up with their households, their tents, and every living thing that belonged to them. But it was your own eyes that saw all these great things the Lord has done. Yeah, guys, your children are going to have doubts about these stories because they literally defy the laws of nature. But you saw it happen. So you're going to have to convince your kids that God is justified in doing all the horrible things he's totally going to do in the future. And your grandchildren will be even further removed from the chain of events, and they won't believe any of this stuff at all. And thousands of years from now, pretty much no one will believe it, except for a handful of people who will believe all of it. And just for funsies, they're the ones who will have all the political power and decide if our planet burns. So, just keep playing along is what I'm saying. Notice that Moses talks about Dathan and Abiram, but not Korah, who also died in that earthquake. Even the Bible's writers aren't keeping track of this stuff anymore. Observe, therefore, all the commands I am giving you today, so that you may have the strength to go in and take over the land that you are crossing the Jordan to possess, and so that you may live long in the land the Lord swore to your ancestors to give to them and their descendants, a land flowing with milk and honey. The land you are entering to take over is not like the land of Egypt from which you have come, where you planted your seed and irrigated it by foot as in a vegetable garden. But the land you are crossing the Jordan to take possession of is a land of mountains and valleys that drinks rain from heaven. It is a land the Lord your God cares for. The eyes of the Lord your God are continually on it from the beginning of the year to its end. Wait, in Egypt they planted their seeds and irrigated them by foot? What does that even mean? True story. Foot water is considered a biblical euphemism for urine, as in those Egyptians watered their plants with capital P for Pharaoh. But there's no reason to believe that was actually true, which would just make it a very specific insult. And I, for one, am here for it. By the way, if a land was actually flowing with milk and honey, it would be really sticky. And that's kind of disgusting. So if you faithfully obey the commands I am giving you today, to love the Lord your God and to serve him with all your heart and with all your soul, then I will send rain on your land in its season, both autumn and spring rains, so that you may gather in your grain, new wine, and olive oil. I will provide grass in the fields for your cattle, and you will eat and be satisfied. Thank you, God, for controlling the weather, which will be very interesting to recognize whenever there's a drought, and which we will absolutely keep in mind when climate change wreaks havoc on the world. Be careful, or you will be enticed to turn away and worship other gods and bow down to them. Then the Lord's anger will burn against you, and he will shut up the heavens so that it will not rain, and the ground will yield no produce, and you will soon perish from the good land the Lord is giving you. Fix these words of mine in your hearts and minds. Tie them as symbols on your hands, and bind them on your foreheads. Teach them to your children, talking about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Write them on the door frames of your houses and on your gates, so that your days and the days of your children may be many in the land the Lord swore to give your ancestors, as many as the days that the heavens are above the earth. This is very convenient. Moses is telling them that if they are not 100% committed to God at all times, the rain will stop, which is a thing that happens anyway. So he's using the predictable unpredictability of the weather as a way to reinforce a mythology. It's devious, really. And then, just to make sure it sticks, Moses says, be sure to tattoo this stuff on your body and indoctrinate your kids, and make sure you are always talking about God over dinner. And when you sleep at night, you should dream about God too. And you should also graffiti this stuff on the outside of your home. This is so far beyond cult-like behavior. If you carefully observe all these commands I am giving you to follow, to love the Lord your God, to walk in obedience to him, and to hold fast to him, then the Lord will drive out all these nations before you, and you will dispossess nations larger and stronger than you. Every place where you set your foot will be yours. Your territory will extend from the desert to Lebanon, and from the Euphrates River to the Mediterranean Sea. No one will be able to stand against you. The Lord your God, as he promised you, will put the terror and fear of you on the whole land wherever you go. I love this so much. If you obey God, then God will give you all the land in the entire world, which, as far as these people know, is just a teeny tiny little patch in the Middle East. And it's not even a tiny little patch known for peace and harmony. See, I am setting before you today a blessing and a curse. The blessing if you obey the commands of the Lord your God that I am giving you today. The curse if you disobey the commands of the Lord your God and turn from the way that I command you today by following other gods which you have not known. When the Lord your God has brought you into the land you are entering to possess, you are to proclaim on Mount Gerizim the blessings, and on Mount Ebal the curses. As you know, these mountains are across the Jordan, westward, toward the setting sun, near the great trees of Moreh, in the territory of those Canaanites living in the Arabah in the vicinity of Gilgal. You are about to cross the Jordan to enter and take possession of the land the Lord your God is giving you. When you have taken it over and are living there, be sure that you obey all the decrees and laws I am setting before you today. I am still trying to wrap my mind around how these people need to obey gods and not all the other gods that may pop up. Because we know nothing about those other gods. Maybe they are better. Maybe they don't kill people randomly. The bar for gods is really low right now. Why are we settling? Thank you, salesman Moses, for telling us the benefits of this land we have no choice but to receive. It honestly sounds a lot like crypto. If the places were really that great, you wouldn't need to market it this heavily. I think Moses is worried that people are going to enter the promised land, look around, realize it's not worth the price they've paid with their time and the lives that were lost along the way, and then rise up against him. Now that would be an amazing way for Moses to die.